Yeah, that's what really made a difference.
Thank you, Serge. And thank you, Luis, for recording it.
Yeah, we can start the general chat, I guess. And I'd like to really welcome Serge. And I know that Serge wanted to be here last week, and there was a special reason that he had to be with us that didn't happen. But obviously, the wait is just the significance of the message, and we're here to listen to it. And then we would like to slowly move into asking some questions. Uh, Serge, I keep looking at your website, and Jesus, you offer such a bountiful set of services for people. And you have a 50% sale that does look remarkable.
Yep.
Uh,
And I'm just about ready to, like the one page I have about revisiting channeling and the concept of it, I'm about to like at least double, if not more, the page itself with other things that have come to me along those lines.
Excellent.
so,
More expansion.
yeah, what do you
Yeah.
mean by revisiting channeling?
Well, I no longer view it as an external entity in some other dimension. And in fact, I was actually thinking about this afternoon while I was at work. There was a little bit of lag. And like in the 80s or so, when I started, 1982, it was all the rage to believe that there was all these different dimensions and layers of dimensions. And there was like lords of one dimension and lords of another dimension. And you had to do this and do that and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, wow, what a foreign concept. And at the time, we didn't question it, but now I would question it vehemently. From what I've learned from Kris, and as Kris refers to Seth as Uncle Seth, and I think in the later part of her life, Jane was even revisiting the idea of channeling, and I've kind of gone in that direction too, where I come to believe that we are so multidimensional that everything that we create is from me. Like I am the creator of my reality. So anything I experience is part of that reality that includes Kris. And even though he has his own kind of identity, it doesn't supersede mine. It's an added dimension of it. And of late, there has been another one that he's introduced as Bright Hope. And that has kind of deepened or widened the interaction and the information that Kris shared over the last couple of months. And I think that's yet other kinds of dimensions of who I am. And who I am is not who you see or even what I think I see in the mirror. There's more that we might never ever able to fathom, but it's a process. And I'm kind of viewing all these things that particular way. And I'm
Well,
probably not even doing it any justice.
I actually wanted to share with you something, Serge. In the last time when I asked you a question about a civilization that I experienced, and you were one of the people who answered, and you elaborated on my experiences in the astral and my, I forget the word you used, like unpolished abilities there. I wanted to share with you that a couple of months before then, when I had had a session with Bashar, I asked the same question at the end of the session, but unfortunately I was almost out of time and he only had a moment to respond. And he said, the place that you are describing is a civilization within the higher astral realm. So what you said resonated very much. And he went on and I said, oh, I said, so it's not an external civilization. And he said, there is much about the astral realm that humans know very little about. There are thousands of civilizations within this realm where individuals visit to explore various aspects of the theme or themes they have chosen. In fact, many, if not most individuals who channel and often assume they are in contact with extraterrestrial civilizations are in fact experiencing the energy of these civilizations within the astral. Because the experience is so vastly different from their physical experience, they interpret, they assume these civilizations are extraterrestrial when in fact they are astral. And so when you picked up on that, it was wonderful that you gave me more information on that because the session ended then.
And just listening to you, I already got, like when uh I would have you ever seen Downton Abby?
Yes,
Yes. Oh my
yes.
Yeah,
gosh.
when they
Yes.
need to call the butler, they ring the bell, they pull the cord.
Yes.
Well, there's something like that in me. Like Chris is pulling the cord,
Ah.
so he has something to add to it.
Oh, great.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Luis, could you please put Serge's website in the chat
yeah.
if you get a chance?
Channeling Kris is his website, but I'll put it in the chat.
Oh, okay. Well,
Okay.
then never mind.
Hmm.
I'll
Yeah, it's a
find it.
it's a very simple and well established now. But yeah, and we'll
And it's
put it
spelled
also
KR.
when we post the video in YouTube. There'll be information on Kris, his websites, and all the other participants that may have a website.
I
Thank you.
posted it.
Oh, thanks.
So
man.
the subject that you have opened here tonight in this informal part of the evening is one of great interest to me. And I just watched yesterday, I think it was, Brian Scott did a 30-minute clip approximately, where he is actually for the first time disclosing that he has been channeling, but that he doesn't believe that it is the standard ways of channeling. And so as a result of that, he didn't want to ascribe any, specific connotation that he was. I have been observing him for the last several years, and I determined that he was channeling the production rate of his videos, even when he's basically reciting other people's material or sometimes interviewing. Production, the amount of things was, and then he started doing what he calls meditations, activations, and quantum jumping things. And I said, this guy is so darn well connected. He must be getting truckloads of information every day. Well, on this particular segment, just a few days ago, he talked about a group that he calls the Luminous Ones that he has decided to disclose, but that come to him in not a trance state, not a channeling state exactly. Sometimes he said, I sense them through automatic writing. But one of the number one ways is in his bathroom when he's taking a shower and he's fully conscious of taking the shower. And right there, he says he gets it downloads. And he very quickly developed a system to very quickly record his recollection of what, or record actually maybe the conversation that he was going to repeat for the recorder. And so he's compiled a number of those kinds of things, and they're remarkable. They're really remarkable. And one of the things that is said by him, I don't know what this is. I don't, he's involved in metaphysics. He says something that's very similar to Cryon, and Cryon has been saying this for probably 10 years or more, that channeling is changing because we have becoming more multidimensional or more capable of understanding our multidimensionality enough to start bringing that in. And as that happens, there's going to be very fluent ways of being connected all the time and receiving whatever information we are desiring to receive.
Well, let's start bringing Kris in so we can get this meeting started.
Yes.
Please.
Yes, Kris.
And thank you.
Ready to go? Buckled up?
We're buckled up. If you're ready, we're ready to go.
Okay. Now, we trust that you are comfortable, and we thank you for your consideration. The topic that you have been discussing is of great interest on many, many points. Perhaps we might be able to touch on a few of those. And one of them is actually as you began the conversations, you talked about interpretations. And all of the contents of your conscious mind and subconscious mind, we don't want to say unconscious because you are never unconscious. You just choose to move some knowledge to the side so that you can still consciously focus upon areas of your own interest. That is how you interpret your multi-dimensional being, which means that within the one concept of yourself, your one ideology, exists many ideas of yourself or yourselves. And at any given time, you're never necessarily the same person, the same individual, even though it may appear as such. So you wear many masks and you flow through those as easily as you would flow through the many rooms of a large house. You made another mention as well about the channeling, the changes, and yes, the changes are becoming more and more evident for those who want to see. There are still those who might enjoy holding on to the old ideas, such as, for instance, the idea of old classical reincarnation. You were at some point in time, you are now, and you might be in the future. And there are still many individuals who hold on to the idea that each one can and must occur in a consecutive order, even though your quantum sciences can show and discuss the possibilities of existing in multiple dimensions at once. And this is the very basis of the concept of selfhood. So you are multi-dimensional beings all within one umbrella personality at this particular point. Your experiences in dreams and dream time might give you a clue. For instance, that you might be the one sleeping on the bed, and at the same time, in a dream, you're enjoying a beautiful vacation destination in Java or somewhere else. You might brush it off as it's just a dream. But to the self, this is also an existence. And it does carry an influence, if you so choose, to draw upon that influence and that base of knowledge. In other words, you are always in a state of flux. You're always changing ever so subtly. You might not think so. You might think you are still the same individual as when you were a child or a teenager. But if you look deeper into the process, you will see you are not the same individual. The idea of you has somehow or other sustained itself. But who you are now, who you were then, and who you will be are all very different. And yet it is still encapsulated within the concept of yourself. And that is a very, very important thing to keep in mind as you go through life's various challenges, because this gives you the opportunity to ask your forever self for assistance if you need to see something from a different perspective. Your perceptions will change. And when you were talking, lovely Dragon Rider, when you were talking about astral states exist in the mind. because the mind is not confined to anything physical. In fact, the physical is but a small playground of many playgrounds pertaining to the vastness of the mind. So when you speak of astral realms and astral civilizations, you are, in effect, speaking about different civilizations or confederations of selfhood, different arrangements of the properties of personality traits and characteristics, all lovingly and sweetly arranged in such a way as to provide you with benefits if you so choose to derive or get those benefits for yourself, because no one will hand them to you. And that is the one thing about the experiment that your species has chosen with this particular plane of existence. Sometimes it seems to you that there is no end of a struggle until you realize that you are struggling against your own best interest. And once you make that connection, struggles can very easily transform into opportunities. That is why it is so important to understand the basic principle that everything in your reality, and that means your reality, not somebody else's, your reality is based on perception. That is why Uncle Seth named his book The Nature of Personal Reality, not the nature of reality. You only see and experience through your reality. And all the dimensions within it are your own. They are different dimensions of yourself, unknown to you until they become known. And that is how you grow and evolve. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it absolutely does. Thank you.
Might there be comments or perhaps questions? Please feel free.
Yes, thank you, Kris, and thanks for blessing us with your energy. I have an allergy to green peppers, and I know that there is a reason for that. And since I'm olfactory sensitive, I even if I go past one, I have a reaction to it. Is there anything that you can tell me about that may
Mm.
help me?
And we could go the classical way and describe how perhaps in a past life you had a peppery encounter of some kind, but we won't dumb down your intellect with that. So there is an association that you made with some strong emotional situation, perhaps when you were much younger. And it might have been at a dinner, somehow or other. Perhaps this was served to you. You didn't like it. And this is just purely off the top. There could be other things involved, but this actually does happen where certain emotional situations are not properly understood, absorbed, or healed, and it turns into an physical and emotional reaction. But you can also desensitize yourself, not by going to sit in a basket of green peppers, of course, because that would just shoot up your histamines. But you can begin by, say, looking at pictures of them, imagining the scent, imagining the touch as you regulate internal reactions. So you might notice spikes of a particular reaction, whether it is seeing, smelling, tasting, even in your imagination, and begin to tinker with the particular feelings that arise or the emotions that result from the feelings. Doing this gradually until you might be able to hold one or smell it in such a way that you have very little to no reaction at all. And you can also take another route. Use EFT. You are familiar with EFT. It
Not,
stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. You can learn the process online for free. And it is very, very effective. You can do that very quickly and perhaps in a short amount of time completely desensitize yourself, basically by desensitizing the neural pathways and the connections in the mind that trigger, because this is a trigger, that trigger the reaction, perhaps even finding an emotional base for it, and thus be done with that. So you are not beyond hope.
that is good to hear, and I really appreciate the detail on that because when it happens, anger also is part of that. I
Yes,
mean,
because
it
you might
really
feel
comes to
powerless to stop the reaction. Does
so.
that make sense?
Yes, it does. It makes a lot of sense, and I'm looking forward to delving into that.
Hmm.
And I'm
So
hoping that my detox will help bring some of that to the surface as well.
it might, but remember that initially it is a mental situation. So the detox is good at the physical level, but also approach it by short circuiting those particular triggers that set off a physical reaction.
Well done. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Indeed.
No, I have a question about something that happens to me when I do something specific, and it's always happened. Um, when I send energy to somebody, so let's say I'm just sending a picture in a thought form and a message, and I shoot that energy and I see it infusing that person. The moment the person accepts it, I have uncontrollable sneezing fits. And that's how I know it's been accepted and we have a connection. Every time without fail, I will sneeze and then I won't be able to stop sneezing 6, 7, 8 times. And then for about 2 or 3 minutes, I'll be completely congested and then the congestion goes away.
Hmm.
Every
Now,
time I make a connection with somebody, it happens.
when you send energy, do you send it at their request?
Um, no, I'll send the energy and I'll send it and I'll ask that if it's for their greatest good and it's for everybody's greatest good, let this energy be received. And then I let
Hmm.
it go. And then as soon as it and sometimes it doesn't get absorbed, but the moment it does get absorbed, I start sneezing.
There might be an association in your own thoughts, in your mentality or attitudes about it. Well, perhaps we want to verbalize this, word it very carefully. Perhaps there is a part of you that might be incongruent. So you look for the congruency from their end. But what about the congruency for your end? Even if a part of you might want to and desire and loves sending energy, you might have a part of you that's not congruent with the process, might object, perhaps as a means of protecting you or something of that nature. So it would do you a world of good to mentally not check in with the other individual, but to check in with yourself and make certain there is congruency. If there is an aspect of you or a part of you that feels a little off about the process, do not discount it. Have a discussion, have a dialogue, a mental internal dialogue with this particular part of you. And it may even again stem from youth for something unrelated, but may have to do with helping other individuals, or perhaps even a fear that other individuals might be taking advantage of you in a way that would cause you to resist. But just examine it in all aspects by checking, do an internal check before you begin. Make certain that all of you is on board with this. And if there is a part of you that you feel is offering some resistance, again, don't discount it. Invite it for an inner dialogue. Have a little discussion. Perhaps both of you in your mind are sitting across each other in a nice little cafe, having a warm tea or chocolate drink or something else, and discuss about the differences that may exist. and then come to terms with it. Do you understand that?
I do. It's at the point where, because it's been happening since I was a teenager. I actually welcome it because I know, got it. The connection was made. It's like a
And
check that I've
yes,
made. Like when it doesn't happen, when the sneezing doesn't happen, I know, okay, there's a resistance. The person doesn't want to accept that. Okay, got it. Yes, got through, got the message.
so you
So
can
it's like a check,
come
a check.
to and you can come to an understanding with this particular aspect of yourself, wherein it might be able to let you know without having such a strong reaction. Perhaps just a deep inner bell go off in your head. Not a real one, of course, but just another kind of signal that doesn't throw you off kilter.
So could this be that it's like a method of validation that I'm needing
It
to
can
know that
very
it
well
got through?
be that could be part of the picture. Examine all angles possible and then leave it alone because then other things may come up as well. All the angles that you observe may not be all the angles observable. Do you
Okay.
follow?
Yes.
And in the meantime, allow yourself to also receive energy. Because from our perspective, there's a part of you that deeply wants to assist others. But as far as you're concerned, there is a little hesitation. So, in other words, right now, accept the energy that we're sending you and see where that hits you between the eyes.
That's true. I always prefer to send it, and I feel very self-sufficient, and so I'm not very good at
And
the
especially
opposite.
to think that perhaps if you were to ask for energy, it might be a little selfish on your part. Even if it is very muted, it's still there. So,
Okay.
as the saying goes, it's your party and you sneeze if you want to.
I will do that. Thank you.
Hi, Kris.
Indeed.
I'd like to continue the part of the conversation that has to do with the personal perspectives and personal reality. And I think that I have been experiencing deeper levels of understanding of what that really is, which connect immediately to belief systems. And I have been in the process of peeling the onion of the belief systems that are somewhat not so obvious to me, that are really creating the limitations and the situations that are creating the reality that I don't particularly enjoy. And I have been astounded about the fact that things that I thought that I wouldn't have in my belief structure are still there. Most of them coming from what I'm going to call fears that have been probably some of them programmed from very early childhood, uh, perhaps to a good extent by my parents, particularly my mother. Uh, and so, as I stand here, what is amazing to me is how the process of discovering some of those belief systems and in some cases realizing mentally what needs to be done, in some cases realizing from an emotional point of view, but having to master those emotions to get over those belief systems.
Hmm.
So how could you shed a little bit more light into my own personal process of
That is a tall order, perhaps a latte grande, but we will try to give you a smaller latte. So first of all, we would like to refer to you as Dante. That is a intonation that more or less suits the whole of your personality that includes who you are. Secondly, you're correct. Almost every single human being acquires the belief systems that they have now from very early on from their familial environment. first from the parents, then the family unit, and then society itself and the educational system and so on and so forth. And we must also point out that not all belief systems or beliefs held are negative. And all the beliefs that you have acquired, that goes for everyone, at one point or another, they were deemed necessary. They might even have helped someone survive their growing up. They might not have allowed thriving, but they might have allowed a surviving. And as you go through your own life experiences, you come to realize that some beliefs that you acquired at any particular time no longer work for you, no longer suit your personality, and need a revision. You need to take inventory, which is very important. And that is why you have a conscious mind. The conscious mind can help you inventorize the kinds of belief systems that show up as feelings and emotions. And that is your clue that if you have a particular strong reaction, somehow or other, there's a trigger that will lead you most likely to recognize that you acquired some ideas, because beliefs are just ideas, that you acquired some ideas unquestioningly, and now you have to question them because they no longer provide you with the energy to continue. So they become burdensome. They have become a psychological albatross. So you want to move away from them. Now, you cannot remove any beliefs. You cannot cut them out or excise them. But you can, however, shift your attention to acquire new beliefs or new ideas about yourself. This is how you make the shift from old belief systems to new belief systems. You instill. Just like you may have realized at some point that Windows 3.5 no longer works. So you now will use Windows 11 or 12 or 20 if Microsoft still is allowed. So you have to install a new system. It does require you to understand the old and activate the new in that particular way. So you can flourish, and the transition might somehow feel as if this is a headache. But as your whole physiology adapts to the new thinking processes, you will benefit. So if, for instance, you have a fear-based belief system, recognize it, own it, or as we like to refer to these days, own your shit, and then refuse to feed it any more energy. Instead, focus on a belief system based on love, acceptance, nurturing, compassion, and so on and so forth. Focus your thoughts on that. And most of the fears are related to your own existence. No external agencies, but your own existence. So when you begin the process, be open, be free, be as playful, because this is important. Creative people are playful with their energy and their thoughts. So we advise you to also be playful with your ideas. Do not constrict yourself into a little box of beliefs, but instead blow the lid on that sucker and live life with exuberance. Live life with joy. There is something very, very powerful that actually does happen when you shift your expressions from fear to joy. Your own lovely egos become more resilient, diverse, and your emotions signal to you that you are feeling more united in consciousness. So go in that direction. Embrace the new. Embrace the new ideas about yourself. Does that make sense to you?
It does. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We might have taken a little long to express it, but this is a very deep subject. And you are not the only one that is going through in this particular situation.
Thank you.
Or may they be someone else.
Unmute my. Oh.
Yeah, thanks. So just to go take a step back and continue the discussion that you and Irene started. So there isn't anything in existence that's outside of us.
Correct.
I mean,
Even
we
the
talk
room
about,
that you are feeling, even the room that you are sitting in, exists in your mind, and its physical representation is part of your energy. So basically, the room doesn't exist. The couch or chair you're sitting in doesn't exist. The body that you think is yours doesn't exist except in your mind, and then it is projected outwards through what you perceive as your physical senses. You're getting sensory feedback, and you think this is you. You think this is your world, and yet it is not even atoms or molecules. It is quanta, basically units of consciousness.
now, does this also apply to such concepts as dimensions, to timelines, to other energetic presences? Are they all a part of me inside?
Yes. It may be a little difficult to wrap your mind around the idea, but there is nothing that exists outside of you. Even the people you see on this camera, these are all representative of inner symbols that are projected outwardly for you to understand at that particular sensory level. Everyone represents something of you.
So then everything in my life, every thought that I have is basically reflecting me back to me.
In many different ways. Yes,
Thank you very much.
it is sometimes a difficult thing to grasp because the intellect has always been, the intellect and the ego has always been convinced that there is this outside world that is of prime importance, and the rest, the world of feelings, emotions, and thoughts and ideas, is secondary. In reality, it is the other way around. But you have accepted to exist in a dimension, if you like, wherein the physical is considered important because you need to understand how not just manage, but to understand the nature of your emotions and feelings. As those elements are transformed into the physicality of the world as you understand it.
Yeah, there's a lot there to think of, chew on. And
Indeed.
thank you very much, Kris. I'm very appreciative. Thank you.
Enjoy the unraveling.
Well,
I have a
It
question.
does, one moment, it does give you something very important to consider. Since you create your reality, you never need to feel like a victim or feel disparaged or wronged. You are the power that creates your experience. Now, you had a lovely question. Do proceed.
So yes, my question is around counterparts. Um, I I believe I have a basic understanding about counterparts, and yet oftentimes it's really helpful for me to hear somebody define and describe something as if I have no knowledge at all about it. because I often then find that what I think I know really isn't the case, but I've allowed myself, I've created holes and bumps and uh, beliefs that aren't aren't necessarily congruent with what others hold. So my question or my request is for you to explain to me as if you are telling somebody who has never heard the concept, never heard it described at all, exactly what a counterpart is.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Now, on the one hand, part of what you expressed pertains to something that philosophers from ages past, and even modern ones, have come to conclude that in reality, they may think they know something only to realize they do not. So this leaves them with enough of an open mind to acquire new information, new data, and grow as an individual. Now, the concept of whether you refer to it as counterparts, probable selves, alternate selves, past selves, future selves, other selves, they more or less all exist within the same sphere. They are just another means to understand that you are a multidimensional being. And your energy can mesh much more easily with someone else than another individual. And you may discover that you have very, very similar ideologies and perceptions. And we don't even want to get into the subject of so-called soulmates, because that is such a distortion. But counterparts, probable selves, past selves, future selves, are variations on the theme of selfhood. You are all multi-dimensional beings. You express yourself in ways you have no idea yet. And the key point is yet. So as you expand your awareness consciously, this is why you have a conscious mind. You want to push boundaries. You want to understand, especially in these situations. Then you come to understand that another individual has very many affinities similar to yours. Whether they are a romantic involvement or platonic involvement, there is still a deep connection, more so than others. So you have that affinity with other beings. Does that make some sense to you?
Yes. At the same time, there's um, I feel like I can um, establish a kind of affinity just from loving anyone
Indeed.
at any time. So
And so
it
you
almost
should.
puts everybody in the same circle. So
And so you should, because everyone that you quote unquote encounter is a projection of your own perception. So you are basically encountering yourselves in other scenarios, just variations of you, if you like. So loving others is also a reflection of your capacity to embrace a larger loving field that you call you. All of you sometimes get caught up in so many different ideas. I love this one. I don't love this one. I don't love myself. I don't like myself, blah, blah, blah. And yet, at the core of your being, just like at the core of your solar system is the sun, and at the core of your being is a torch of light, you refer to it as love. That is your essence. And when you embrace it, you begin to see others in the same light. And it could be someone you have never seen and you will never see again, but you just feel that tremendous upsurge of love for such an individual. And the more you practice that, the more you draw that energy to you, and the more you put it into effect, and the more you change. Because love is the one catalyst that guarantees that your personality is in a state of loving change or flux. And you will throw that love around. So that is the point of existence, isn't it? To just love. So many different kinds of teachers, physical and metaphysical and supernatural in that way, have always emphasized this because there is a part of you, and this applies to everyone, there is a part of you, your deep self, that is the teachings of all of the others. All of these non-physical teachers, they are a reflection of your deeper self, just cast in a different way so that you can understand your own message to yourselves. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, and our conversation is a perfect example of getting an answer that I absolutely didn't expect, but certainly do appreciate.
We often do the unexpected that way.
Oh, good. Thank you.
We thank you. Might there be someone else with an inquiry? Please feel
That's
free.
me. I just want to say hello, Kris, and
And nice to see you again.
yeah, and say nice to see you again, and acknowledge a time many years ago when we had many sessions,
Indeed.
and some information you gave me still stay with me and deeply affect me. So I'm very grateful and nice to see you. Um, you never know how life goes in circles.
Mm.
I would say in spiral, and we meet again. I don't have specific questions, but I'm open if you have maybe some kind of a message for me. Um, I always have question in me, who am I? And more information came in all these years, much more came to me, and I'm a very different person from time when we talk, and so
Indeed, you
maybe
are very different. You
maybe
are
you have some.
more than what you were before. Definitely. And this is an interesting observation. Many people ask, I want to know who I am, without necessarily realizing that that is an unanswerable question. It is, however, a process of discovery, because you may think you are so and you are this and that, but you are none of these things, and you are all of these things together. In other words, there is no other. In your perceptions, there is no other. There are variations of you. And this is something that you are embracing, that you are beginning to understand. And it is transforming you because you are much freer in your own self than you have been in the past.
Yeah.
And there is a delightful and sweet quality to your existence that, were you to acknowledge it a little more and know that in actuality your existence and its sweetness is a reflection of you, that you might be surprised at what it brings to you in terms of additional growth, additional healing, because everyone is in a quest for healing. And the only thing that really needs to heal is perception. So that is our humble message to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hi, Kris. How are you today?
Indeed. We are always very optimistic about everything.
Yes, yes, yes. So I had a question specific to my relationship with you. So whenever you've come through, I've not been able to stay awake or to hear your message. So for me, it says that I'm allowing my physical mind a rest and allowing the information to go right through. May you share where the point of my resistance is, or
Mm.
why I'm choosing to assimilate your information in that way?
There might
Yes.
be no resistance at all. Simply a different way to, and even assimilating is not specifically clear as a word, but to embrace. We have had that particular effect on other individuals. What they may eventually recognize is that they connect so deeply that particular brain waves allow them to enter a hypnagogic state wherein they get other communication from ourselves or others in a way that bypasses their own biases so that they can directly deal with concepts of selfhood. So we don't only teach at this particular level, we teach as Irene has suggested in our conversations, at that mental level as well. We are not limited only to this process. So you are picking up information from other realms within you. You are entering a hypnagogic or dreamlike state. Your brainwave patterns alter. You enter more of a gamma state. And this allows you to absorb multiple layers of information that eventually may be transcribed, or if you want, unfolded in your particular type of experience. Does that make some sense to you?
That's brilliant. Perfect. Thank you.
You're most welcome. And keep it up. You might discover that entering and playing with these hypnagogic states is also a great way to absorb, to sort out and understand information, even if the conscious mind may sometimes object to it. You can use those states to enrich your experience. And you can even ask your lovely subconscious to bring more of that information to the conscious mind. Because the conscious mind is not meant as a blockage, but instead as a helpmate if you invite it. But most human beings think that the ego and the conscious mind are an interference with their spiritual development. And when they think that, guess what happens? Something is interfering
It
because they have believed that. But if you flip it around and consider that your conscious mind and your ego are actually helpmates, and they have a thirst for greater knowledge, then you will benefit as well.
sounds good.
Indeed.
Fantastic. Thanks for putting it in that way. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Indeed.
That's the end of the questions for tonight, Serge. The answers were fantastic. The energy was fantastic too. We are all blessed
Indeed.
that you joined us. So thank you.
Indeed. We return Joseph to you then, and we send you all the delightful energy that you can use.
Thank you so much, Serge. Kris, thank you.
How'd that go?
Beautiful.
Well done, Serge.
Yeah.
I got really good information, and the questions from Milo and Miles, they were very revealing.
Hmm.
I really
I felt that Kris was on a roll.
Yeah, I mean they were so, I mean the details were so nice. They will apply to all of us as opposed to just the individuals. And the people on the replay are going to get quite a lesson or two if whenever they experience it.
Cool.
Very blessed.
Very
Okay, then.
grateful
Thank you
to
very
you.
much.
Very grateful.
And let me know when I could put the video onto my YouTube channel.
Yep. And Luis, if you want to stop the video now, we can start it again whenever Tom comes on.